Hello everyone, November is coming to an end, so it is time for another Hauptstück lesson. This time we will be tackling Durchlaufen, which I think is one of the cooler chapters, but also one of the more challenging ones to work with. This is one of the few parts of Hans Leckgoethe's manuscript where we can learn about body wrestling and throws, as opposed to arm wrestling such as disarms and arm bars, which can be found throughout in great numbers. Durchlaufen can be translated with running through, and it indicates that you pretty much run through the space an opponent will be occupying in order to send them flying. If done correctly, that is often what will literally end up happening, so this is not something you will see very often in competitive fencing. First off, it requires perfect timing and a solid grappling background, and this just means high investment for a very low reward compared to using an easier technique to score. Furthermore, sending people flying, especially if they have no background in grappling, is also a recipe for disaster. As a result, the last time I really looked at Durchlaufen, I found myself proclaiming that the pieces from this chapter can for the most part be done either right or done safely. Only a few selected pieces can be done both right and safely. Now I do have a bit of a confession to make here, because it would have been pretty cool to then really properly have worked through the entire Hauptstück since then, and then be able to provide you with a list of these pieces that actually have some utility in a modern context. But the simple truth is that I spend way less time on learning grappling than I would like to, and other things just keep getting in the way. As a result, I have thoroughly worked through a few pieces, but not all of them yet. That said, what I want to do today is take one particular piece as an example of what makes a Durchlaufen piece work. The technique in question can be found on page 77R from the 1482 version of the manuscript. Like all classic Durchlaufen pieces, it works when someone runs into you, so coming at you with the intent to either grapple you down. Now, all these grappling actions can be done safely if you do them slowly and controlled enough, but the sad reality is that they will then not work under pressure anymore. To wrestle someone down who doesn't want to be thrown, you need to add structure, leverage, and impulse. To practice as well, I personally first like to practice a very similar technique with dagger. I first picked up the concept as a lesson at a really great dagger workshop that I followed in Germany, and since then I've tried to apply it to Messer as well. It's just a bit easier with dagger though, as you don't have a weapon of your own that you need to discard during the technique. So let's just start from what your partner wants to do to you. They come in with a pretty powerful downwards thrust into your neck, and if you simply try to block this thrust, especially when it comes with a longer dagger, a strong opponent will just blaze through your block and still hit you. Not ideal. So instead you can try improving your structure, which is a term I usually explain as your ability to exert force through multiple muscle groups. You want to generate power through your entire kinetic chain from foot to wrist, while taking away your opponent's ability to do so in turn. In this case, you slightly advance the left foot diagonally forward, meaning you block the dagger arm earlier in its path. This results in your structure being stronger than before, while your opponent's is weakened. Their thrust suddenly only comes from the arm and not the entire body. This is great, but it's no fight stopper. So that's where leverage comes in. By basically just doing the dab, so pulling their dagger arm to the left with your offhand and putting their head in the crook of your elbow and also jerking it to your left, you can apply leverage on their upper body, while your hips push theirs in the opposite direction. Doing this will break the structure that ensures your opponent stays upright, also known as now they fall down to the ground. And this is unfortunately where learning a wrestling technique usually stops. And that is a shame, because that means the techniques won't work under pressure just yet. The missing element is impulse. If you want to knock a strong person with good reaction time off their feet, you need to perform all the actions described above basically at the same time and explosively. That means that in the same fraction of a second, your opponent's attack is weakened, their upper and lower body get pushed in different directions, and you're stepping behind them pretty much to make them fly. Now, dagger, very cool, but this is a Messer instruction video, so let's pick up the Messers. This is important. A lot of the Durchlaufen techniques require you to get rid of your Messer at some point during the technique. We use black fence or nylons here because throwing a steel Messer on the floor makes it more likely we get in trouble with hole management, and the risk of injuring someone with nylon Messers while falling down is just lower. When I get rid of my Messer, I purposefully yeet it backwards, otherwise you're going to end up dropping it on top of yourself. Again, not ideal. So the setup for the technique is as follows in this exercise. Someone runs into you with their hands low, so lower than the point. Presumably they're getting close and wrestle you down, or, for instance, misjudging the distance and falling forward. To do this, we start in a bind. So Christian responds to my attempted winding by running into me. First, I focus on creating a structural advantage by again grabbing the arm and pushing it off to my left. Then I practice applying leverage in the same way as with the dagger disarm. And finally, I apply impulse to bring everything together and completely run Christian through. So this is an example of a technique that can be done both right and safely, as breaking this fall was doable for almost anyone. Additionally, I really like this one because it can still be done quite easily in full sparring gear. Even with lobster-style heavy gloves, you can pull this off. So, this is just a short exploration of what I think makes a Durchlaufen technique work. And you can take these rules and try and apply it to the chapter if you want to broaden this idea with a couple of more techniques. So see whether you can apply structure, leverage, and impulse, and then see if this technique can be done safely and effectively at the same time. And if so, then you've broadened your arsenal with yet another technique. Down the line, I will do a way deeper dive, but this is going to be a bit of a project. I need to work on this for several months before I really feel confident about that. So that said, I hope you enjoyed this particular lesson, and I'll see you all for the next one. Cheers!